brief conference held today in Abuja, being the 15th day of April 2021, by Center for Liberty, which was tagged #OccupyNAS. Comrade Areyo Dare, when addressing the press, says that as at today, the National Assembly has failed to meet to date and deadlines set for the passage of Electoral Bill December 2020 and 31st March 2021. He further noted that the Senate President and the leadership of the Joint Committee of the National Assembly on Electoral Matters has failed Nigerians. Comrade Dare says they are worried that the National Assembly appears undisturbed about passing a bill that could give them lasting legacy and touch their names and section in gold. He equally called on Nigerians to get ready to peacefully occupy the National Assembly.
You've heard from all sides, and I want to say finally that if the President of the Senate, Senator Ahmed Lawal, cannot guarantee the passage of a new electoral act, this President of the 9th Senate should please resign. It is not a must for him to remain the leader of the Senate if he cannot ensure the passage of a law that will help Nigerians to elect good leaders, that will help Nigerians to have better elections, and also for us to be able to test this ahead of the Anambra 2021 governorship election. Like my colleague said, President Muhammad Buhari gave an excuse that it was close to the election, he couldn't sign it. Now, Senator Ahmed Lawal is dragging us close to another election before the passage of this law. And we are asking Nigerians to resist this 9th National Assembly until this bill is passed. Thank you, and God bless the Federal Republic. The demand for the resignation of the Senate President is predicated on the issue of passage of this bill. If he doesn't resign, Nigerians will continue to occupy the National Assembly. This is a democracy. We will, including if it means to seek legal action and to take any action, including prevailing on our representative in the National Assembly, to impeach him. The Senate of the 9th senators senators of the 9th Senate can impeach the Senate President if he refuses, to lead them into the passage of this act.
Any protest?
Yes, we've said it. We said if we don't see the passage of this law, during this Ramadan period, post-Ramadan, Nigerians should come together and have Occupy NAS. And we are ready for that. Thank you.
Raising New Voices initiative wishes to categorically use this medium to express dissatisfaction, annoyance, grievance, call it whatever you may, at the delay in the passage of the Electoral Act, as promised by Dr. Ahmed Lawal, who is the chairman of the National Assembly. Under his leadership, the 2010 Electoral Act would have gotten to a point where, at this point, we should have amended that act and have a new Electoral Act 2021. On December 9th, 2020, which my colleagues here have already stated, the National Assembly held a joint public hearing that joined the committee on INEC from the lower chamber, the greenhouse, and the higher chamber, the Senate. A joint public hearing was held from the Senate and the House of Representatives on the proposed electoral amendment. Based on the deliberations and discussions that ensued on this day, we were hopeful that on March 30th, 2021, on or before this day, that we would have a new electoral act that would govern our elections. The Senate President came and promised that before the end of the first quarter, to applause on that day, I think it was more like joyous celebration that finally we are going to have an electoral act that will govern our elections. But this promise has not been fulfilled. We would like to point out to the members of the National Assembly that the continuous delay of the passage of this electoral bill will further heighten tensions in the country. Regrettably, the country will also miss a great opportunity to test run this new law with the forthcoming Anambra governorship elections. How INEC and political parties are able to operate within the new law will help all stakeholders to prepare better ahead of the 2023 general elections. My colleague here has mentioned what happened in Kenya. And we know that Kenya is not as divided in terms of ethnic tribes and languages like Nigeria is. We recall, and I'm sure as members of the press, you also will recall that President Muhammadu Buhari, before the 2019 general elections, refused to assent to this electoral amendment bill that was sent by the Hates Assembly. The reason was that it was too close to the elections, and that any attempt to introduce reforms into the electoral process that did not give INEC the time to conduct elections using this law would cause tensions in the country, would cause crisis in the country, like my colleague said happened in Kenya. Why is National Assembly delaying the passage of this electoral act? Do they want Nigerians to continue to die every time we conduct elections? Do they want our country to continue to be embarrassed when foreigners come and observe our elections like we are children, that we cannot choose our own leaders ourselves? Do they want us to continue in this pattern of electoral malpractice that ensures that the will of the people will then be decided by people who are individuals sitting in courts? Does the National Assembly, under the leadership of Dr. Ahmed Lawal, want us as Nigerians to continue to live in this country where we do not have hope that leaders that we elect will do the things that we want? The elections, and I'm sure you all know as members of the press, the electoral process is very, very important to our democracy. It is the only opportunity that citizens in any country have to be able to shape the kind of destiny that they want, the kind of country that they want. Recently during the EndSARS protest, and I mention this every time we talk about electoral reforms, every time we have this kind of press conference, right? Young people, which form majority of Nigerians today, are hungry, hopeless, powerless, because the very reform that we want for police reforms, which is the case of EndSARS, right, cannot be instituted by the leaders that we have in power. And now the opportunity to choose the kind of leaders that we have by passing this electoral amendment bill is being denied. The same President Muhammadu Buhari that rejected this, that refused to assent to the Electoral Act because of reasons that this is close to the elections, would have the same reason in 2022 if this bill is not passed this year. Twice. We now have a situation where our leaders are liars. And that's the impression, that's the perception that this denial, this delay in the passage of this bill continues to give Nigerians. That our leaders cannot give us promises on a reform that is this important, and they will make do on it. They will make good on that promise. As a coalition of civil society organizations working on electoral reforms, we understand the importance of this electoral reform. It is tied to everything that you can think of. It is tied to your salaries as media persons. It is tied to whether there's food on the table of the average Nigerian. It is tied to whether Nigerians can be treated respectfully abroad. It is tied to every single thing that citizens want as dividends of democracy. If we cannot choose our leaders under a process that we all agree is free, fair, credible, transparent, and that the will of the people do not have to be decided by people in courts, then our democracy has nothing to write them about. Finally, we want to state, like I've said over and over again, the integrity of our elections and the sanctity of our democracy depends on our elections and the reforms that we have now. We want to urge, and we're urging, on the final note, let me just say this. Citizens in a democracy have a way of engaging with their leaders. What we are doing today is one way of engaging with our leaders. And during the Ramadan fast, as you can see that my colleague said here, right, Nigerians and we as civil society organizations will continue to then harness other means of engaging with our leaders. If it includes occupying National Assembly until they pass that law, so be it.